But when you stop doing all the protective things, you get confused. Was it really that bad? Or do I really need to protect myself? And then you start to compromise in the midst of that confusion. And you start doing some unhealthy things again. From New Life Ministries, this is Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn. I'm Stephen Arterburn. And Going Deeper is all about taking the tough issues, the hard issues of life, looking a little bit deeper inside so that we can gain some insight into our lives. Hi, Steve Arterburn here, and thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. So let's go deeper. We have gone through 6 of the 7 keys of spiritual renewal, where we surrender, see, say, own, and then we release, and then we reverse. And today we're going to talk about preserving. So we surrender to God, and then we open up about it. After we see the reality, we open up about it. And then we go through that process of forgiving ourselves and forgiving others after we've accepted responsibility for what we've done. And then we see if God has a mission for us, and we start down that path. But this last key, well, if you don't do this, it's not going to last very long. And it's the key of preservation. And here it is. We protect our spiritual gains, and we persevere throughout life's inevitable struggles. Here's the verse, 2 Peter 1:5. Says this, "So make every effort to apply the benefits of these promises in your life. Then your faith will produce a life of moral excellence. A life of moral excellence leads to knowing God better." So that's what we want to do. Now, I was just doing a radio program, and a woman called, and literally 10 years ago, she said, it's like God hit me up the side of the head and said, you don't need those drugs anymore. And she took a few more steps and said, well, at least I can still drink. And God hit her upside the head again, and she never drank again. And she said she had the gift of premonition. And she told the story of going along the lake. She saw a guy on a jet ski, and she knew he was just going to fall and dump himself out. And sure enough, a minute later, he did. Well, you see a lot of people do that on jet skis. So I asked her, what do you think is the purpose that God would intervene in the laws of nature? And rather than you just be able to do things according to the senses that you have, he gives you premonition so that you could say that some guy's going to fall off of a jet ski. Doesn't seem like there's much purpose there. So we asked her, after you were delivered, did you get involved in a recovery program? She said, no, because I was delivered from it. So I said to her, well, the gift of deliverance is a gift where you can now recover without having to be triggered or tempted or craving whatever the chemical is. But you didn't accept that gift. Because see, when you were given the gift of a miraculous healing, you weren't delivered into Christian maturity. You weren't delivered into wisdom and character. You needed to grow. So 10 years later, she's calling and saying, I want to study the Bible, but I don't know where to start. So I said to her, here's what I think would have happened. If you had got involved in a growth program, like the 12 steps, after you were delivered, 10 years later, you wouldn't be wondering where to start in your reading of the Bible. You would know, and you would have read it maybe 4 or 5 times through. You would be serving, and things would be very, very different. I think sometimes we don't understand the gift that God gives us, and then we don't use it in the right way, and we think that because we've got the gift that we're immune from all the other things that people need to do. But she wasn't immune from all the things that people need to do. So we have this growth process, and we're going to grow, and now we need to preserve those spiritual gains that we've made. So how do we do that? Well, there's an acronym, RISE. Reduce some things, You need less resentment, that's for sure. We'll just leave it at that. increase some things. You need to increase compassion if you want to grow in character. You need to substitute some things, like unhealthy people need to be substituted for healthy people. You need to eliminate some things, chemicals, behaviors, all that kind of stuff. And we need to work to gain insight into all the stuff in our life that we can, and we can do that with counseling and in a 12-step group. Because if we could do it on our own, we would have already done it. And we can't. We have an extreme limitation in and of myself. I am not able to reverse this course, but God can, and I'm going to let God do it. So, how do we know we're in trouble? How do we know we're about to not preserve the spiritual gains that we've made? Well, it's real easy. So, when you begin the process of growth and you're doing some work, you're confessing, you're making things right with other people, accepted responsibility, you're going to meetings and Bible studies and all these things. So, the first sign that you're in trouble, it's real simple. It's called you get complacent. And so you quit doing all the things that you've been doing that have been so helpful to you. It's that simple. You can't recover anymore if you're not doing the stuff that led you down the path of recovery. So you get complacent. So when somebody goes into treatment for something, let's say, and they come out and then they do nothing. Heard of a woman who had been in treatment 10 times, failed all 10 times, and the last time she came out, she did exactly what she did the other 10 times. Nothing. Well, you'd think she would have done something after the 10th time, but she didn't. So you have to put together a plan, a recovery plan that you're going to grow, you're going to get stronger, you're going to connect more with people, and you're going to need all that connection because you're going to be dealing with some painful things without getting relief or release from the chemical. And so we do stuff. When we stop doing stuff, it's complacency. First sign of relapse. So you wouldn't wait till a person had sex with somebody again, or you wouldn't wait till somebody drank again, took drugs again to say, oh, you've relapsed. When they quit doing the healthy stuff, that's when relapse begins. Because once you are complacent, you get confused. You start to ask yourself a question. Well, was it really that bad? It wouldn't hurt if I could just talk to this female here and be fascinating to her. It wouldn't hurt if I just went into the bar and did some witnessing to people. You get confused and you start to compromise. You think you're immune, or you think you've got this thing licked, but it's got you licked, and you need all the help that you can get so that you are protecting yourself. But when you stop doing all the protective things, you get confused. Was it really that bad? Or do I really need to protect myself? And then you start to compromise in the midst of that confusion. And you start doing some unhealthy things again. Here's one. You start to resent again. Recovery, people say, I don't have the luxury of having a resentment. Can't afford to. My sobriety, my peace, my comfort, it's all dependent on staying free of anger, bitterness, and resentment. So we give it up. So I get complacent, confused, I compromise, boom, then the big catastrophe takes place. Those are the 4 C's of relapse. So we don't want to relapse. We want to preserve the spiritual gains that we've made, and we want to protect the thing that we've created here, and we want to be able to persevere. Now, there's a new study out of Wheaton College or University, and it's about spiritual fortitude. Now, spiritual fortitude is not grit. Grit is, dig in, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's like self-strength, not that. And it's not, fortitude isn't resilience. Resilience is I get knocked down and I get right back up. That's not what it is either. Spiritual fortitude is a characteristic of going through adverse times, finding purpose and meaning, connection with other people through the process, and I develop meaning even in the midst of the struggle that I'm going through. That's spiritual fortitude. So, who has the most spiritual fortitude? African American folks have it. I think they must have inherited it from their grandparents, because I've never seen anything like the faith of the black slave here in America, who could be treated by Christians with such evil and yet still have a strong faith, create these spirituals that communicated that faith. I mean, their spiritual fortitude was beyond anything I think any of us could imagine. Not angry at God, angry at other people, forgiving. In fact, some people, when they were emancipated, they went back to their owners and let them know that they had forgiven their owners. Pretty amazing. So what we want to do is, once we have had this great recovery program, this call to spiritual renewal and transformation, this final key here, we want to preserve what we've done. And, the Bible is so clear about when you're helping somebody, be careful so that you don't end up in the same kind of trouble that they're in. You'll fall too. You'll fall harder, probably. So what a great gift it is when we develop this plan, carry it out, and we never get complacent, and we just get better and better as we go along. So those are the 7 keys to spiritual renewal and transformation, and I hope they're helpful. It's a growth plan that Dave Stoop and myself developed, and we've just seen people over and over when they follow it. It really makes all the difference in the world. Now, if you need some help, you call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, because you can be assured of this. We really do want to help you with whatever it is you're dealing with. Thanks for joining me. See you next time for more Going Deeper. Thank you for joining me for Going Deeper. I hope something I've said may have helped just a little bit. If you have a question you'd like me to answer or comment, just email me at stevesocial@newlife.com. I'll see you next time.
If you want to support Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn, be sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And if you know someone who would benefit from this episode, be sure to share it with them. See you on the next Going Deeper with Stephen Arterburn from New Life Ministries.